Good evening and welcome to Bravo. I'm Martha Crago. I'm the Vice Principal of Research and Innovation at McGill, and it's a great pleasure to be that person, I can tell you that. I want to begin by acknowledging that McGill University is on land which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange among Indigenous people, including the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe Nations. We acknowledge and thank the diverse Indigenous people whose presence marks this territory on which peoples of the world gather. C'est une grande joie pour moi d'accueillir les lauréats et je tiens à souhaiter tout particulièrement et chaleureusement la bienvenue à leurs invités. Une équipe loyale qui les soutient, confrères chercheurs, collègues, familles, étudiants, stagiaires, proches et mentors. So this is a truly special evening for our community. It's actually, is it my favorite day in the year? I don't know. You have to weigh it out. But I do love this day in the year. And this Bravo has been running for 18 years. And it was begun by a man named Denis Terrien, who some of you know, great computer scientist, chair of the School of Computer Science, and a childhood laureate. Denis Terrien won the Quebec-wide contest for who knew the most about Tintin. And who did he beat in the finals? The last contestant that was left standing that he had to overcome was Luc Vinet. Former provost of McGill, rector of the University of Montreal. It was a tough contest in those days. So I thank Denis for having gotten us started on this, and I wish a little sort of 6-year-old Denis was in our midst. So to start things off, I want to invite the interim principal and vice chancellor, Chris Manfredi, to say some opening remarks.
Well, thank you very much, Martha. Good evening and welcome. Bienvenue au Gala Bravo. Being here tonight, sharing this celebratory evening with all of you is truly an honor for me. Comme par les années précédentes, vous avez remporté bon nombre de prix les plus prestigieux de vos domaines à l'échelle provinciale, nationale et internationale. Looking around this room, I'm so inspired and impressed by what you've accomplished. Principal Emerita Suzanne Fortier always liked to say she liked numbers, so a couple of numbers. In 2022, 112 McGill researchers received a total of 120 prizes, awards, and honors, including the Simons Fellowship in Theoretical Physics, the SSHRC Impact Awards Gold Medal, le Prix littéraire du Gouverneur Général, the Arthur B. MacDonald Fellowship, 2 World Cultural Council Awards, induction into the Canadian Medical Hall of Fame, and a new cohort of medal winners, fellows, and members of the Royal Society of Canada. As well, I especially want to congratulate the winners of McGill's Principals Prizes for Outstanding Emerging Researchers and the Principals Prize for Public Engagement through Media. And of course, many, many more. There's those media people active. Thanks. I invite you to consult the program which lists all of the 2023 Bravo honorees. In doing so, you'll notice a wonderfully diverse group of people, each united by their dedication to research excellence across disciplines. Nous savons que derrière chaque prix se trouve un chercheur exceptionnel, ainsi que la famille, les amis, les collègues et les étudiants qui contribuent à son travail, le soutiennent et l'inspirent au quotidien. Ce soir, nous rendons également hommage à ces personnes qui apportent leur soutien. On a personal note, as I wrap up my mandate as interim principal and prepare to return to my regular job as provost, I want to share that this role has further deepened my appreciation for the incredible breadth and quality of contributions made by members of our community. Contributions that collectively help secure McGill's place as a top global university. This is true of the excellent work put forward by McGill's researchers and the impact it has on local, national, and international levels. So, congratulations, Félicitations on all that you've accomplished and will, no doubt, continue to achieve. You make us all very proud to belong to this vibrant and most prolific McGill community.
Well, thank you, Principal Manfredi. And on behalf of the entire research community, I want to extend our thanks to you for your excellent leadership. It's not an easy role that you fulfilled this year, and you fulfill the role of provost really well. And your contributions to McGill over many years, and many more to come, I hope and I expect. So. Okay, what comes next is a kind of tradition at Bravo. We sort of think that we're movie makers, and I do have this great staff that just goes wild on doing what they want to do with this event. And one of the things they do really well is they make some videos of some of the honorees that are here tonight. Now, of course, we can't feature everybody because we would be here till, well, I think tomorrow. I was going to say midnight, but I think it would go on and on. So now we'll start, and you'll see the video that has been made for this year.
Victoria Caspi is a world-renowned observational astrophysicist who has made major discoveries and important contributions to our understanding of the universe. Her research group has produced many of the most exciting and cutting-edge results in the study of rapidly spinning compact neutron stars called pulsars. Caspi is also investigating the mysterious and fleeting extragalactic pulses known as fast radio bursts, or FRBs, coming from far outside our galaxy. She considers her greatest research accomplishment the training and development of emerging researchers, students, and postdocs.
It is a tremendous honor to have won the Albert Einstein World Award of Science. I'm particularly proud of the fact that it is in part for mentorship and for the work I've done with students and postdocs over the years. That is one of my favorite aspects of my job, is first interacting with young people, young, hardworking, ambitious, curious people. They are just wonderful. They're the lifeblood of really research, certainly of my research, but I think research in general. To be honored for that work, it's like icing on the cake, because I just love doing it.
I'm Natalia Gomez, and I am an associate professor in the Earth and Planetary Sciences Department and a member of the Trottier Space Institute at McGill University. My work is at the intersection between climate science, geophysics, and polar research. So I seek to understand how the polar ice sheets in Greenland and Antarctica are responding to climate change, and how global sea levels and coastlines are going to change in the coming decades and centuries. I do this work because it is urgently needed, and I am passionate about understanding how our planet works and how we can live more sustainably on it. This kind of recognition is really impactful, especially in a university setting where we are really training future generations to lead the way in addressing the challenges we face in our changing climate. My work is really interdisciplinary. So some days I am building computational models at my computer. Other days I'm off near the ocean trying to collect observations of how things are changing, or going to really remote areas of the world, like near Greenland or Antarctica, to understand better how things are changing there. So it's an exciting area of research, and it really exposes you to what our planet is really like.
My name is Satya Prakash. I'm a distinguished James McGill Professor of Biomedical Engineering in the Faculty of Medicine at McGill University, Montreal, Canada. My research interest is in the areas of artificial cells, microbiome, probiotics, medical devices, and targeted drug and gene deliveries for managing heart health, cardiovascular diseases, chronic diseases, cancer, and neurological disorders. My interest is in illustrating the microbiome role in diseases and developing probiotics, and in designing biomedical formulation in controlled cells and tissue responses, and formulation for targeted delivery of drugs, genes, and other therapeutics. I enjoy working with colleagues and training graduates and other students. I have trained more than 125 researchers that are working around the globe in various biomedical industries. My research team has successfully spun off 4 companies that have attracted millions of dollars of investment in Quebec and Canada. These companies have successfully commercialized products that have been used globally by millions. In the last 2 decades, I have been recognized as international leader, having made several groundbreaking advances in microbiome and probiotic research. For example, developing a BSH active probiotics for managing cholesterol that has improved the health of millions of the people around the world.
My research, it's very much related to what I refer to as participatory, visual, and arts-based methodologies, mostly with young people, and primarily looking at areas of social justice issues that are particularly pertinent to young people. One key area is gender-based violence. I do a lot of work in relation to girls and young women. I started even a journal called Girlhood Studies as a way to not only look at the research, but also to ensure that there is like a broad discourse community around girlhood studies. Work on gender-based violence in particular, as we know, is a global phenomenon, and for me that right now is becoming, I guess, like the driving force for so much of my work, because there is so much to do and there's so little time to do it in the lives of young people. They're only young for so long. Being awarded this prize, I think, really validates the notion of participation. It validates the idea of arts-based methodologies. It validates the idea that we solve social issues by talking with people, working with people. We don't solve them from somewhere else. The answers are right here. So having the opportunity for my students, my colleagues, the communities that I work with to recognize that this work is being honored and is being acknowledged by others, I think will have a tremendous impact on future work for new researchers. This work is important. It's award-winning work. It's important.
Je m'appelle Alain Farah, je suis professeur associé au département des littératures de langue française, de traduction et de création à l'Université McGill depuis 2009. Mon domaine de recherche principal, c'est la littérature contemporaine. Donc, je travaille en littérature contemporaine à la fois comme analyste, c'est-à-dire que j'observe dans les écritures contemporaines des phénomènes qui ont à voir avec les liens entre littérature et politique, mais aussi du point de vue création littéraire, j'essaie d'accompagner des étudiants, des étudiantes dans l'écriture, justement, d'une littérature qui corresponde un peu aux enjeux de l'époque. J'ai été très chanceux du point de vue des prix littéraires avec mon dernier roman « 1000 secrets, 1000 dangers » parce que j'ai été récompensé du prix Ringuet de l'Académie des lettres du Québec et aussi du prix du gouverneur général, donc qui est donné une fois par année à Ottawa. En termes de retentissement, je pense que ce qui est intéressant, c'est que ça permet de faire connaître mon travail qui se concentre dans cet exercice-là qu'a été l'écriture de 1000 secrets, 1000 dangers sur les questions liées à l'immigration, en fait. Comment, en fait, un immigrant de 2e génération s'installe, si on veut, dans sa communauté d'accueil. Je me sens extrêmement privilégié de faire ce travail-là, qui est un travail qui consiste à passer son temps à réfléchir, en fait, à comment la littérature, qui est quand même une discipline qu'on dit dépasser, influence, en fait, l'avenir. Et puis, cette rencontre-là avec la littérature vivante, c'est la rencontre avec les étudiants et les étudiantes qui veulent en écrire, qui veulent en lire, qui regardent la littérature puis qui sentent qu'elle sait des choses qu'elle est la seule à savoir sur le monde. Et donc, de pouvoir les accompagner dans cette démarche-là, ça me fait plaisir.
That sampling reveals about this university. The strengths go across many fields, many people from many places, and people going many places to do that research. So it's always a great thrill for me, even though it's the tiniest bit of sampling of all the people in this room. So I have a lot of pride in the research you do. I like to do nothing more than to try to facilitate you in that endeavor. But you make your own pathways, and it's remarkable to see the pathways that you've carved out here. So now it's a big honor for me to introduce tonight's keynote speaker. Dr. Cindy Blackstock is a professor at McGill School of Social Work and recently appointed as the Chancellor of the Northern Ontario School of Medicine, and she was the winner of SSHRC's highest honor, the 2023 Impact Award, Gold Medal. A proud member of the Gitxsan First Nation, Cindy serves, and I think she would say she is honored, and I will say that it is we who are honored, that she has served as the Executive Director of the First Nations Child and Family Caring Society. She has over 30 years of experience advocating for child welfare and Indigenous children's rights, and has published widely on these topics as well as on reconciliation, Indigenous theory, and human rights. The Globe and Mail some time ago referred to her as the unrelenting moral conscience of Canada. And I can't think of a better way to describe her, and how lucky we are that she is unrelenting. She has been pivotal to a successful human rights challenge of Canada's inequitable provision of family and child services and its failure to implement Jordan's principle. This hard-fought litigation has resulted in hundreds of thousands of services being provided to First Nations children, youth, and their families. Internationally, she has been a force for change with the United Nations Committee on the Rights of the Child and in the development and adoption of a general comment on the rights of Indigenous children. Cindy Blackstock's contributions to Canada and to the world have had a profound impact on the lives of many. One person, many impacted. So please join me in welcoming Bravo's 2023 keynote speaker, Dr. Cindy Blackstock.
Years ago, Pope Alexander drafted something called the Doctrine of Discovery. It was to legitimize the taking of the lands by Columbus. And it had a presumption that these lands were empty, and the minds and the humanity of those who occupied the lands were empty too. It took 530 years to correct that long arc of justice. But it left a trail. The United States Declaration of Independence, the very birth certificate of our neighbor to the south, includes the phrase, the merciless Indian savages. Our own country, by the colonial forces of Spain, of France, and of England, have used that doctrine of discovery to dispossess First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples of their land, of their culture, of their languages, and of their children. This has also infected the brains of non-Indigenous people. In fact, some of the most progressive among us, those that we've lauded, such as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, cited the doctrine of discovery in a landmark decision that denied Native Americans their rights. It is an infection that we face that is shaped the way that Canada is structured. Universities have their own form of the doctrine of discovery. We're focused on discovery, and sometimes that's a good thing, as many of the award winners here tonight are saying. But sometimes We ignore what is right in front of us. We assume that Indigenous peoples are a blank slate to be written knowledge on. We too often ignore their realities while we try to discover and produce reports on solutions that need to be implemented and acted upon versus written about. And we ignore our own role in rectifying those injustices. You know, I grew up in northern British Columbia, preserved from my nation. I didn't even know what a reserve was. Man, imagine that. We have wildlife reserves and we have Indian reserves in Canada. That Indian Act that was given birth in 1867 is a long arm of the doctrine of discovery. But as I was picking pine cones, which was my first job when I was 4 years old, I had no idea that the Canadian government was out hunting for kids like me to put me in residential school. Now, they never found out me because I lived in the bush and we had a dog that was half wolf, which I think helped. But it was also a reality for me that no one in my family could describe the inside of a high school. You see, until 1960, we weren't allowed to come to places like this. It was against the law. We weren't people, so we weren't welcome in spaces like this. And when we did arrive, and I did arrive in UBC in the mid-1980s, the place where you went to see First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples was across the road at the Department of Anthropology. Still, far too often, the great wisdoms of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples are elective courses or something to study only as applicable to those populations and not for the enrichment of the entire world by respecting and honoring those sacred knowledges that have made the premise of the baseline of Canada. In fact, the very name of the country comes from First Nations peoples. And yet we too often slip by those realities. And now we're facing the challenge in the academia of discovering what was already there, to affirm the wisdom of First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples, to affirm their realities, and for each of us, regardless of where our great traditions come from, to involve ourselves in the implementation of solutions. It's no longer enough to write a report on the fact that First Nations don't have water or that Inuit have tuberculosis rates at hundreds of times of everybody else. We already know these things. We have to get involved in their solution. We have to stand in the winds of discrimination so that First Nations, Métis, and Inuit peoples don't have to do it alone anymore. We have to earn our right to live on this land by acting in respectful partnership with these populations. In my own small way, working in collective with the First Nations folks over the decades, to achieve a bit of small measure of justice for First Nations children, I was honored to work with non-Indigenous allies in that work, including Dr. Nico Trocme from this university. But there were many more, if I'm really honest, that stood at the sidelines. They were busy discovering, and sometimes they were discovering things that we already knew. I remember a picture of an archaeologist on the front page of a national newspaper who had, quote, just discovered this whole place where dinosaurs were in this old creek bed. Well, I was used to play in that creek bed. I've got tons of dinosaur bones from that very creek bed. We need to see what is right in front of us. We need to involve ourselves in that solution, and that means that we can take pride in the fact that Shirk awarded the gold medal not for the stuff that I write, but for the collective work that we have done implementing the solutions that research lays bare. Not just the research that gets published in academic journals, but the truth that comes from the communities themselves who have suffered under the weight of injustice for far too long. The elders say that the children in the unmarked graves appeared to us because we're ready now. when you all wore orange shirts in the wake of the discovery of the children from Kamloops, within the following 6 weeks, the Government of Canada implemented more TRC calls to action than in the previous 6 years. But the time for wearing orange isn't over, because the injustices are still there. So as we look into the skies and we discover things around the world, let's understand that the rapture of discovery is a double-edged sword, one to be embraced and celebrated, but to not distract us from seeing the wisdom that is right in front of our very eyes. I'm so honored to be here today. I thank McGill, and I thank Shirk for allowing me, I guess, taking a shot of saying that implementation and service matters. And it's not always about the research grant. Sometimes it's just about the humanity of falling in love with people and doing your best to help. Thank you very much.
I knew this would be hard, and I knew it would be even harder because I would have a lump in my throat, and I do. And I thank you for bringing that reality straight to us and making us not be able to avoid discovering it. Before we close formal proceedings, I want to take this opportunity to celebrate a milestone award of one of McGill's most distinguished researchers. In 2022, Dr. Brenda Milner was awarded the Charles L. Branch Brain Health Award, the first person over 100 years old to receive the honor. Imagine, she is still professionally active at 104 years of age. This is a feat that few of us will accomplish. She's received numerous honors, including the Balsan Prize for Cognitive Neuroscience in 2009, the Kavli Prize in Neuroscience in 2014. Though she can't be with us tonight, I invite you to join me in celebrating the accomplishments of this striking woman. Now, as we come to the end of the formal part of this program, I remain grateful to every member of the community who nominated, promoted, and otherwise supported the success of the laureates we are honoring tonight. You did something for the good of someone else. Prizes and awards often have a significant administrative requirement, and I thank everybody who offers their time and energy to submit nominations for their colleagues. It's in many ways as difficult as submitting a grant. I extend special thanks to Meredith Chapman. Meredith, you got to stand up. This one woman runs what others in Canada refer to as the McGill Laureate Machine. And they really call it that. All you have to do is go to one of these Royal Society events and watch the number of people from McGill that walk across the stage, and all those files sat on her desk, were fixed up by her and Dr. Deb Tatone, who is somewhere here, and will stand up, I hope, because she's done a lot of work on bringing us to a world where we've got all the possible awards you could ever want into a great spreadsheets and computerized world so that people can find what is good for anybody they want to nominate. And then I want to thank the team that is responsible for organizing this event. These are the creative people in my world, and in particular, Amanda Testani and Megan Thurston. Where's Amanda? Where's our best party planner here? Anyway, they do great work, and this goes for numerous people that are here working as volunteers tonight, and to a band from the Schulich School of Music that we'll hear more from, and then to the Omni Hotel that I think I don't know when we started coming here, but it's been a long time, and they give us excellent service. So there's going to be in a few moments, there's going to be a reception. There's food, more food than you've had, to be put on large plates and taken across the hall to a room where you can sit down and meet with your friends and toast your fellow laureates. And so I want to encourage all of you, though, before you go off and do that, that you can tweet your congratulations using the hashtag Bravo2023. So let's share the successes of these people with the world. Now, the honorees, there's one last thing you have to do. You had your picture taken alone when you came in, but now you're going to line up on the staircase that you walked up to come here to have a group picture. And while you do that, everybody else is going to get a head start on the food and drink. And you can all take that food and drink. There's a large dining room to the left-hand side where there are tables to sit. And so we hope you'll do that. So first, the honorees need to stand up and exit down the hall to the staircase for a picture. So we'll have them stand. We'll give them a last round of applause. So this concludes the ceremony. Now it's time for fun.